Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my first Voltron video. If you guys didn't know, Voltron Legendary Defender is the new series from the Legend of Korra people. It's basically them doing Voltron. This will just be for the first couple of episodes. They really introduce you to the world, what's going on, and what's changed from the original series, depending on which version of Voltron you've watched before. Even if you've never watched Voltron before, you don't remember it from the 80s, the first episode does a really good job of introducing you to the universe, the animation studio, the producers, the writers, all people from Legend of Korra, so you'll recognize the look and feel of this a little bit. It has a very Korra-like energy to it. There are a couple nice twists that you don't learn about till later in the series, but I'll talk about that when I get to spoilers. But if you have seen some of the original Voltron, you'll recognize a lot of familiar story elements, some of the characters. They've tweaked a few things. The pilot and the color scheme have changed just a little bit. So Shiro pilots the Black Line. He's kind of like the captain. In the original series, that was Keith. Lance, who's the blue pilot in the original series, was the red pilot. So they changed a few minor things. Really, they've substituted Shiro for Sven. So I think that choice was made just to bring it closer to its Asian roots. Because this is one of those series that's like Transformers or Power Rangers, Japanese series repurposed for American audiences. So for those of you that didn't watch cartoons in the 80s or the early 90s, a lot of times what TV networks would do is they would take a Japanese series that was really popular and they would cut it up and use like the big, mecha anime battle scenes, like the really heavily animated scenes, and then just add a little bit of new footage to change story elements and then air it on American television. That's what they did with Power Rangers, that's what they did with Voltron, that's what they did with Transformers. So a lot of the story elements from this first episode, like the coming together of the lions, Shiro escaping from King Zarkon's fighting pits, is a lot like the first couple of episodes of the original Voltron. So there are a couple ongoing storylines, the biggest being King Zarkon trying to get his hands on the lions. They've explained that the lions have basically been dormant for about 10,000 years. The backstory, they tease the mythology behind Princess Allura's people is very similar to the original series. There was a great battle. Hagar and King Zarkon were able to defeat their people, so in an attempt to preserve the future, they divided the lions and spread them out across the universe so that they would remain hidden. So the new pilots have this quasi-spiritual bond with the lions themselves. There were supernatural aspects to the original series, like Princess Allura's father appears to her as a ghost. In this, he's more of a ghost in the machine of the computer, so they don't fully explain it in the first couple of episodes. They're just going to tease that out over the rest of the series. But it's this nice balance of technology and spiritualism that you saw in Legend of Korra, and they kind of treat it the same way, only it's more like lion bending. But voice actors, you probably recognized at least a couple of the voice actors. Steven Yeun from Walking Dead is playing Keith. Bex is playing Pidge, and you might think that it's weird that they picked a girl to play a boy, but there's a big twist that you find out about later. I don't want to spoil it now, but a lot of you who watched the original series remember that there was like a pink outfit that the princess wore. She piloted one of the lions. There's a nice twist to that with Pidge's character in this that they explain in later episodes. The person who's doing the voice for Allura is also Malachite on Steven Universe. She has a pretty recognizable voice. And like I said, pretty much everybody that worked on Legend of Korra and Last Airbender came on to this series, with the exception of Brian and Mike. So it's basically the Korra version of Voltron, which is like the best possible thing that could have happened. That's why it looks so awesome. But I feel like they really cleaned up a lot of the classic stories. So they're not retelling the original Voltron stories. They're taking a lot of elements and a lot of familiar things and making them what I'll call better, because when you watch the original Voltron, there's a lot of really fun things, but the stories aren't that great. Like I said, the original companies that made the Voltron series were basically just repurposing Japanese footage. So most of those Japanese cartoons that were aired in America during the 80s were just rampant cash grabs by toy companies. So the stories of the episodes are actually pretty decent. And I like the way, because it's 13 episodes all dropped at once, it's a lot more serialized. So they introduced the idea of Shiro not really understanding how he escaped from King Zarkon, not remembering that he was a gladiator in his arena, the secrets that Pidge is hiding and his search for his family, and then sort of the mythology of Princess Allura's people, some of the mysteries of the castle, and the more supernatural aspects of like how they interface with the technology, how Voltron is formed. The way I understand it right now, when they're forming Voltron, they formed this mental bond that's a lot like Odo and the Changelings on Deep Space Nine. If you never watched Star Trek Deep Space Nine, it's one of the best Star Trek series of all time. But in their natural state, the Changelings exist in what they call the Great Link, where they just all kind of become one organism. That's kind of what happens when they're forming Voltron. So the first couple of episodes is them slowly realizing that and figuring out how to do it. But they said when they were making it, they also had some fun dealing with the scale and the scope of Voltron itself, because it's kind of like a combiner. Because when you watch Transformers, you see Optimus Prime. He's already the size of a full-size truck. He's already enormous. But then you have combiners which dwarf the scale of a Transformer. So the physics behind the lines is really interesting because they're already enormous. And when they combine, it's just crazy big. But this image will give you a really good idea for the scale. So let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about the first couple of episodes? I know everyone's sad that Legend of Korra went away, but I think it's so awesome that they picked a series like this to do, like the Korra team. They said that when DreamWorks bought the rights to Voltron and they were going to redo it, they came to them while they were still working on the last couple of episodes of Legend of Korra. So during Korra Book 4, like that was slowly coming to a close, DreamWorks called them up and was like, hey, we have the rights to Voltron. We want you guys to work on it. So they locked down a lot of the Korra production people and Studio Mir, which is the animation studio, which is like a separate company. Studio Mir itself is supposed to be animating 4 new DreamWorks Netflix projects, but I don't know what the others are going to be. Voltron, I think, is just the first one. And they did say that they would be working on a season 2. They have ideas for where the story's going to go, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. Only that they will do more Voltron, just because Netflix is really big about producing new content. So thank God this is not Nickelodeon behind this, because we get like 13 episodes and then we never see it again. But what's going to happen next is I have a Marvel Spider-Man video that I'm going to post, so be sure to subscribe to get that. Let me know if you want me to do more Voltron videos, and I will. I'll probably make it a Saturday thing, so I'll at least do one more video for like all the rest of the episodes. So be sure to watch it, cry a little bit about Legend of Korra. While you guys wait for me to post that next video, you can click here for my Lady Stoneheart Game of Thrones theory, and you can click here for my Warcraft Easter egg video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.
Protector of the innocent, and our only hope to save the universe.